Pleasant good morning, honorable members, and those under the sound of my voice. In our Moments of Impact reflection segment today, I'll be sharing part 3 of our leadership series entitled Juggernaut Leadership. In today's reflection, I want to focus on the word presence. Juggernaut leaders know how to master the art of presence. Presence has to do with being there for people when it matters the most. It's being there for people when they celebrate victories and experience losses. When people are going through difficult moments in their lives, your presence gives them the assurance that they are not alone. Presence gives people a sense of belonging, comfort, and security. Establishing your presence is simple. Just show up. Show up when people least expect you to. Show up without any ulterior motive. Show up even when it's inconvenient. When you show up for people, they feel your interest, your care, and concern. And as a result, they will give you access to their heart. Jesus, in my estimation, was the quintessential juggernaut leader who often modeled the principle of presence during his sojourn on earth. One such example is found in Luke chapter 7, verses 14 to 15, which records a funeral procession that was taking place. Verse 14 says, "And he came and touched the bier, and they that bare him stood still. And he said, Young man, I say unto thee, arise. And he that was dead sat up and began to speak, and he delivered him to his mother." Needless to say, Jesus won the heart of the child's mother because of his presence and level of care and concern he showed to her during her most difficult hour. In conclusion, let me hasten to say today, to become a juggernaut leader, you must master the art of presence. Mastering the art of presence requires a great level of selflessness, concern, and care for others. I leave you with this final thought today in the form of a very famous quote that simply says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Selah, think and act on these things. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, the giver of life, the giver of health, the giver of strength, we come before you today asking for your mercy and help as we seek to navigate through the vicissitudes of life. Oh Lord, we bring our great nation before you. We ask that you would help us to effectively manage what you have placed in our care. Oh Lord, we pray that your peace will prevail in our streets, in our homes, in our communities, in our schools, and in every facet of our nation. Now, Lord, we pray for our political leaders, and we ask, Almighty God, that you would grant them the wisdom and the strength to carry out their national assignment. We pray today, Almighty God, for their physical well-being, and we ask that you would rid them of stress and anxiety and pressure and any physical malady that they might be battling this day. We pray that you would help them to manage the workload while taking care of their physical bodies. We cover our political leaders today. We pray against any untimely death for any one of them. We plead the blood of Jesus upon them now, and we declare that they shall live and not die to declare the works of the Lord. Now, Father, we pray for the proceedings of this house, and we ask that you would guide and direct and lead our leaders as they discuss matters of national importance. O Lord, superintend the affairs of this honorable house, and let your perfect will be done. For these things we ask. In Jesus' name we pray. And all of God's people say, Amen. Let us pray the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Philip Davis, Chester Cooper, Fred Mitchell.
No suitable arguments today.
Alfred Sayers, Dr. Michael Darville, Clay Sweeting, Keith Bell, Wayne Monroe, Jobeth Colby Davis, Ginger Moxie, Mario Boleg, Jomo Campbell, Basil McIntosh, Miles LaRoda, Pia Glover Roll, Lisa Ramming, Zane Lightbourne, Dr. Hubert Minnis, Jamal Strawn, John Pinder, Marcus Rowe, Leon Lundy, Kirk Cornish, Wade Watson, Leonardo Lightbourne, Leslie M. Miller Bryce, Leroy Major, Sylvanus Petty, Michael Bonnaby, Michael Pintard, James Quaid Thompson, R.M. Lewis, Shannon Cartwright, Adrian Gibson, Adrian White, Kingsley Smith.
Good morning, honorable members. I would like to give a reminder to all members that the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas intend to start playing Christmas messages the first week of December, and they are asking that all members come in and do the Christmas messages between November 1st through 14th. So I would like for us to comply with the request. Also, I'd like to welcome to the House of Assembly the Bahamas Diabetes Association, and they're here supporting kids with diabetes. With them is the president, Nurse Lindriana Ramming. Could you wave for us? Their treasurer, Andrea Linden, and Elver and Brewster, the Kids with Diabetes Administration. Also with them are some of the children that are diabetics, and I think 2 of them had to leave. I know Kaylin Rule had to leave to go take an examination, and I see we still have Aaron Burrows here, and he's here with his mom, Desiree Burrows, and we'd like to welcome them to the House of Assembly. Rodeo and Raquel Sands was also here, but they also had to leave to go back to school. I would also like to put on the table the writ of election for the upcoming by-election, and I'd like for the document to be laid on the table. Clerks? Thank you. The chair recognizes the honourable member for Freetown.
Madam Speaker, if I may, there are a number of scheduling issues that will fund a motion I will make now. The first is that there's a passing out of Squad B,
Yes,
of
sir.
2025 of the Royal Bahamas Police Force scheduled for Grand Bahama, that I am to attend. There, I can mention, Madam Speaker, that we don't intend to advance any bill for debate and would only intend to deal with the committee stage of the data protection bill that is now in committee. And so, Madam Speaker, I would move that the House proceed by proceeding directly to the committee stage to permit me to address that and then revert back to the ordinary course of business thereafter.
Thank you, honourable member. The chair recognizes the member for Sinans.
Thank you. The opposition notes the government's intended motion, but the bill that they plan to move through committee stage is significantly altered from the bill we debated. There aren't proper notice of the actual amendments. We have a bill that they intended to replace by withdrawing the tabled bill and tabling that on the day of debate. They didn't do that. So what the opposition has is a single bill with yellow highlights. It doesn't say what is actually being amended, whether something is being removed and replaced, or if a new clause is being added. It's just simple highlights. This bill affects aspects of the Bahamian Constitution, Madam Speaker, and we would recommend that for the public benefit and for this Honourable House's benefit, we go through those particular amendments with proper detail, considering especially that we're not being given the standard form of written amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, honourable member. The chair recognizes the honourable member for Freetown.
Madam Speaker, I've communicated to the Leader of Opposition business on the 14th of October. I communicated by the member for the COI on the 20th of October. I sent the bill that has highlighted in yellow all of the proposed amendments, and I wrote the following, Madam Speaker, for the record. I wrote, we have the following amendments based on late responses to consultation. We can address as one long movement or replacement of the existing bill with this marked up one. Please let me have your position. I did a follow-up. The Leader of Opposition business indicated that they had caucus. Then he says this substantively. If the mover or seconder is able to go through the amendments at the start of the debate, we have no objections to the tabled bill being withdrawn and the new amended bill being tabled and debated today. That was the 15th of October. My response is they are the ones highlighted. We propose to debate the bill in its current form and at the committee stage present a movement that sets out the highlighted changes and leave it in committee for a vote next week on the amendment. And then we communicated about contributors. So it was quite clear that we intended to debate the bill in its current form. They had the highlighted bill highlighting the proposed amendments from the 14th of October, which has 31 days, so they've had it for 21 days, 3 weeks. And I would say, Madam Speaker, that how we intend to move it is just as I indicate, move that the bill be amended as set out in the highlighted bill that was delivered to them electronically 14th of October. They cannot say they're taken by surprise, Madam Speaker. That's 21 days notice. And
3 weeks.
the reason for the amendments, as we said, was that we are a listening administration.
Yes.
People responded late, but we didn't dismiss them out of hand. We considered what they had to say, and they incorporated, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I think that's a fair enough statement from the member from Freetown. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for St. Anne's.
Madam Speaker, if the clerk confirms that yellow highlights to a bill are the appropriate way to amend a bill, no, I'm asking the clerk. I'm not asking Cat Allen Rumkey to weigh in on the clerk's decision, Madam Speaker, but traditionally when you have a bill that's tabled, you provide written amendments to the bill. You don't just simply highlight a document without saying how it's amended the tabled bill. And I don't have a problem, Madam Speaker, this is your house. However, you and those that may advise you from the clerk's team wish to proceed.
Those that advise me from the clerk's
From the
team.
clerk's team wish to proceed, that's fine. I'm just saying this is out of the norm. There are extenuous amendments. It's not simply one or two. This is an 88-page document. And this impacts fingerprints. This impacts individuals' facial recognition, and it impacts the Constitution. End of the day, the majority is with the government. If they want to overlook everything, and if the clerk and you decide that this is a satisfactory precedent, Madam Speaker, set it. But my knowledge is you provide written amendments, you present those at committee stage, and those tell you what is being repealed, what is being replaced, what is being inserted, and that's not what we have with this yellow highlighted document. Whether it's 3 weeks, 3 days, 2 days, they had since 2021, Madam Speaker, to get this right if we're concerned with timing. They could have had this all done with proper consultation when it was debated. But, Madam Speaker, as I said, these are objections of the opposition. It's your house. Thank you.
Honourable members, continue to stand, because I want to address you with one question. That was 21 days ago. Why did you wait 22 days later to bring it and put it in the House? Why didn't you put that in a letter or WhatsApp and send that to the Leader of Government Business so that could have been addressed from that standpoint, rather than waiting 3 months, now going into probably 1 month later?
Okay, Madam Speaker. So October 14th, they sent a bill after they tabled the bill. Is they a word recognized in the English language? Do we not speak English in this honorable House, Madam
Okay,
Speaker?
the Leader of Government
The
Business,
member
we
for
understand.
Yamacraw,
We're not going to argue that.
unfortunately,
Let's move
is
on from
attempting
that.
to interfere
We don't have to argue with
again.
everything that we hear.
Then,
Let's go.
Madam
He's
Speaker,
in his seat. Let's
this-
keep going. You're addressing me. Let's go.
Only the person on the feet should be the one speaking, Madam Speaker. So October 14th, a bill is sent at 11 a.m. 3:59 afternoon. Any response to this? 3:35. 4:35. Not yet. We have caucus at 5 p.m. Wednesday, October 15th. I message Monroe, 9:25.
Continue.
It's embarrassing, Madam Speaker.
Don't get distracted.
October 15th, what are the amendments? You sent an 80-page plus bill. If the mover or seconder is able to go through the amendments at the start of the debate, we have no objection to the tabled bill being withdrawn and the new amendment bill being tabled and debated today. That's our position, Madam Speaker. The member for Freetown, they are the ones highlighted. They, oh my God, that's that word again, they. They are the ones highlighted. We propose to debate the bill in its current form and at the committee stage. So they propose to debate the bill in its current form and at committee stage, Madam Speaker, present a movement that sets out the highlighted changes, Madam Speaker, and leave it in committee for a vote next week on the amendments. The motion the government is intending to propose is to accept all amendments as one. That is not setting out the amendments. Setting out the amendments, as represented by the member for Freetown, is to go through the amendments, Madam Speaker. This 88-page document has several amendments, and we even agreed that they could have tabled it on the day of the debate, and they refused to.
Yes, absolutely.
They chose not to, and now they want to move it through for a graduation.
Oh, my. The chair recognizes the honourable member for Freetown.
Madam Speaker, the rule on this is page 59 for the
Yes.
edification of St. Anne's. Page 59 of the rules, Rule 68, has no set procedure at all. All it says is after the second reading, the House shall resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole for the consideration of a bill unless the bill has been referred to a standing committee or the House resolves not to commit the bill. A committee shall debate only the details of a bill. It does not tell you how you go about that. What is proposed, Madam Speaker, as was set out clearly in my message to St. Anne's, which he read, is that we intended to debate the bill as tabled and that we would deal with the amendments in committee.
Yes.
He had inquired what were the amendments, and the first line that I pointed out to him was that the amendments are highlighted in yellow. And so there's no doubt as to what was being amended, and we were proposing to proceed in accordance with Rule 68(2). And Madam Speaker, the fact that one gets prone to a particular practice is just that. It is a practice. We go through this, long title, short title. Nothing in the rules requires you to do that. And it was quite clear to us how we wish to proceed. And you know, Madam Speaker, we have gotten to this point, at this point, after much consultation before the bill was first drafted, after the bill was tabled, because the bill was tabled for consultation in August, before we went on break. It was uploaded to the government site. Persons were made available, were made aware of it.
Wow.
But as I say, we are a responsive government. The fact that persons responded only when they discovered that the bill was about to be debated does not stop us responding to sensible suggestions, something that we always say to the side opposite. If you have sensible suggestions, let us have them, and they can be incorporated rather than grandstanding. But the reality is, Madam Speaker, we have, in fact, given them with 21 days' notice all of the changes that we intend to make. And Sinan speak about these constitutional matters. They were there in the first iteration of the bill. The member for Cat Island, Rumpkins, and Salvador spoke to it. I spoke to it. So it's not brand new. And so, Madam Speaker, as I had moved, I would move that we move to the committee stage in accordance with Rule 68, Sub-Rule 2.
Thank you, honourable members.
Now that you've allowed it to be seconded, before the vote happens, Monroe cannot deny
Honourable member for Freetown.
the honourable member for Freetown cannot deny that it was only this morning, roughly 5 minutes or less before you entered this honourable House, that they advised the opposition that we weren't going to debate the amendments in the committee, that they intended to go as one, all of the amendments, without going through them in particular, Madam Speaker. That was only 5 minutes before, and that completely changes the previous representations documented between the Leader of Government Business and myself. So, Madam Speaker, there wasn't adequate notice that we were going to essentially do away with debate of the bill at committee stage. That was only done by this motion. And if you allow the motion, which they control because they have a majority, Madam Speaker, then not only are we doing away with the practice of having the amendments written out with particulars, but we're doing away, Madam Speaker, we're doing away with a rule guarded in this book and mentioned by the Leader of Government Business in 68-2. A committee shall debate only the details of a bill. That's the only objection, not how they want to go about it, but why they're going about it now to the exclusion of any debate, which is a protected rule in the rule book of this Honourable House of Assembly.
Madam Speaker.
Honourable member,
If
the
I-
bill in
if I may,
question
right.
has already been debated. We are now taking it to committee stage. And I don't see the problem with it. If these things, listen, we have to do things in decency and in order. This motion has already been placed on the floor. It's already been seconded. If there is anything questionable and you want the speaker to mediate, you should have drafted a letter, sent it to the clerk, and the clerk would have handed that letter to me some weeks ago. And then we could have mediated that. But now you're going to wait until the question was already put. And now there's a motion on the floor and seconded. So where does that place us? We now have to proceed.
5 minutes, Madam Speaker. You expect me to be able to draft a letter and get it to the clerk 24 hours before
You
the
could have
sitting?
sent a WhatsApp to Mr.
No,
Mr. Forbes was here.
I know how to use WhatsApp, but as I said before, and which government hasn't denied, the Leader of Government Business only mentioned this 5 minutes before, Madam Speaker, and I just want that. I just want that to be on the record, Madam
Okay,
Speaker.
honourable member, I hear you. The chair recognizes the honourable member for Freetown.
Madam Speaker, if I might, there seems to be some magic being proposed by my learned friend, by Member for Sinans. We've done this many times because this government has been very forward in legislating. During the committee stage, if we listed it one at a time, we go to the section, we say, as many, the person stands, reads the text of the proposed amendment, and a vote is taken.
Whether you agree or disagree.
A vote is taken. So this idea that there's some magic to doing it individually or opposed to collectively does not stand scrutiny. Under the ordinary process, the practice that we've had, the person who is Leader of Government Business moves the section. When you say as many, the person stands, proposes the amendment, and the amendment is voted on, and that's it. And we propose nothing different whatsoever.
Thank you, honourable members. It has been moved and seconded that the House to now resolve itself into, pardon? Okay. It has been moved and seconded that the amendments do be agreed as read. As many are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand.
Madam Speaker, no amendments were read.
The motion
No amendments.
as highlighted in the bill.
No amendments were read. That's not reading.
The motion is carried. Thank you, honorable members.
Sorry. Yeah. Madam Speaker, I would therefore move that on that ruling, we do resolve itself into the committee of the whole with that direction.
Is there a seconder? Second. Thank you, honorable members. It has been moved and seconded that the House do now resolve itself into the committee of the whole with the deputy speaker in the chair. As many are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The House will now resolve itself into the committee of the whole with the deputy speaker in the chair.
Committee of the Whole. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Freetown.
Mr. Chairman, the Data Protection Bill 2025. I move, Mr. Chairman, that the bill be amended as is set out in a highlighted copy of the bill previously delivered to the member, the leader of government, the leader of opposition business in the House, and the member for Central Grand Bahama representing the COI.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Second. It has been moved and seconded that amendments be agreed as circulated. As many as are in favor, the chair recognizes the honorable member for Kalani. Oh. East Grand Bahama. You want to switch it?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask a question under the short title and commencement. You have sub 1 and you have sub 2. And under the highlighted copy that was provided to the opposition, sub 2 says this act shall come into, and it is highlighted, operation. Can you please explain what that amendment was or what the reason for that amendment?
The amendment is the insertion of the word operation, which is a grammatical correction.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for St. Anne's.
Madam Speaker, Mr. Chair, in subsection 2 of interpretation of the Act, biometric data has a highlighted section added to it. Biometric data reads, means personal data resulting from specific technical processing related to physical, physiological, or behavioral characteristics of an identifiable natural person, which allow or confirm the unique identification of the identifiable natural person, such as facial images or fingerprint data. Mr. Chair, what are the facial image data information that are going to be obtained and added to the biometric data?
Thank you, honorable member.
Facial image is a facial image.
Mr. Chairman, the words that they further describe, because such as indicates that it's an example of what goes before, is identifiable, the unique identification of an identifiable natural person. And they include, which is such as facial images and fingerprint data, such as for a lawyer in construing a statute means that this is not an exhaustive list. And what is controllable is the words, the identifiable features, unique identification of an identifiable natural person.
Members, before anyone stands, the chair recognizes the honorable member for Freetown.
And Mr. Chairman, I had actually moved for the acceptance of this bill as amended.
In its entirety.
Yes.
Thank you, honorable member. Yeah.
No, Mr. Chair.
What was the
Mr. Chair,
motion?
my understanding was he moved for the bill to be amended as read, not that the bill was accepted. Moved that the bill was to be amended. That's my understanding of what he moved.
Okay, can the chair recognize the honorable member for Freetown?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the bill be amended as highlighted. So
And it's
once that resolution is agreed, the bill is amended as highlighted, and then once it's amended as highlighted, it's actually in its entirety. So
Is there a seconder?
it has been seconded.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for East Grand Bahama.
We have no difficulty in the member for Freetown making that motion.
It
However-
goes to vote.
however-
We will vote on it.
However, before it goes to vote, in a committee stage, we are entitled to ask specific questions on every amendment. So that is what we on this side are doing. The motion has been moved, it has been seconded. When you said as many, we are now entitled to ask questions on that motion. So that's all we're doing. According to procedure, that's what we're doing.
Yeah. Honorable member, the question was asked if we're going to a vote right now. Is there a seconder? It is being moved.
Chair. Mr.
Yeah,
Chair.
yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, a motion was moved for the bill to be amended as highlighted. It was seconded. You then put the question in accordance with the committee rules, as far as I understand them, that once you put that question, we are entitled to ask questions on that motion. So all we are doing is asking questions on that motion. The motion was for it to be amended. We are now asking questions on that motion. So all we are doing is in accordance with the rules. That's all we're doing.
Yeah, honorable member for East Grand
That's all-
Bahama.
that's all we're doing is asking
The question was answered. The chair recognized the honorable member for Freetown. Members, one at a time. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Freetown. Members, take your seat.
Mr. Chairman, I do not accept the righteousness of that argument, that it is actually correct. But if they want to demonstrate how detailed they are about things like what amounts to your actual identification and ask these questions, let us then engage and demonstrate to the Bahamian public how they perform as legislators.
Thank you, honorable member. The chair recognizes the honorable member for St. Anne's.
Also in Section 2, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and for the benefit of members of the public who they obviously appreciate or take for granted, we'll see how they respond. Section 2 has a definition. Data protection impact assessment means a systemic assessment carried out by a data controller or data processor to identify, evaluate, and mitigate the potential risks to the rights, freedoms, or legitimate interests of data subjects arising from the proposed processing of personal data. This is an entirely highlighted section, meaning it's an entirely added, new, not previously debated section. can the government side advise members of the public what the risks are to their rights and freedoms as a result of the processing of their personal data?
Honorable members, member, okay, go ahead. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Freetown.
Mr. Chairman, this is a definition, and it's defining those 4 words. And what those 4 words is defined as is a protection for persons. It is inserted prophylactically out of an abundance of caution based on a comment by a helpful person responding to the consultation, something that did not.
Members.
Keep your mind clean. Keep your mind clean and out of the gutter, Marco City. But this is yet a helpful term to make abundantly clear the need to protect persons' data. I would advise, Mr. Chairman, it fell from consultation from someone other than a member of the opposition.
Thank you, honorable member. The chair recognizes the honorable member for
The chair.
Freetown, for St. Anne's.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. He's not answered the question as to what are the risks. He's just said a definition is a definition. Essentially, Madam Speaker, he said no more, Mr. Chair, no more than saying definition includes 4 words and what comes after it is what it means. What I asked is, what are the risks, Mr. Chair, what are the risks to the rights, freedoms, or legitimate interests of data subjects? That's members of the public. They didn't say it during the debate, Mr. Deputy Speaker, but this bill is being pushed through because they're trying to introduce biometric cards. So as we have a general election coming on the tail of the passing of this bill, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and they're stating in this bill by this new added definition that they didn't wish to debate during the time allotted for the bill's debate, they have identified that there are potential risks to the rights, freedoms, and legitimate interests of the data subjects of the Bahamian people. What are those risks is what we are asking. Please have the government side explain what those risks are. Not that a definition is a definition. Tell us the risks that you're asking the Bahamian people to be subjected to as a result of these biometric cards you're introducing just at the 11th hour before a general election.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for Freetown.
Mr. Chairman, I know that the member for Cat Island, Rumkey, and San Salvador, and I pointed out in our contributions that you already have biometrics in place. Anybody who returns from abroad and takes their picture at the kiosk and put their fingerprint on the kiosk for immigration that issues you a clearance slip to enter is engaging with biometrics. This government has moved to say that this exists. It exists when you board the flights in the U.S. You don't even now have to produce your passport or boarding card. You step up, it takes your picture, it tells you your name, it tells you your seat. St. Anne's knows sufficient to know that biometrics are not new. What this provision defines and puts an obligation on the data controller, which he always had, to protect against the risk of your data being misused or disseminated. What this does is basically enforces the need to do it as a system. In my view, Mr. Chairman, it is not necessary because the bill as it exists would do that. Somebody suggested that it would be good to do it, and so that I don't use the word prophylactic again, the English call it belts and braces. If you have on a belt, you don't need braces, but some people wear both. And this is a belt and braces provision, Mr. Chairman.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for St. Anne's.
Within that long response, there was a recognition that one of the risks is that your personal information could get disseminated, meaning you give your information under this new amendment, Madam chair, and your information is at risk of being disseminated. They will do their best to protect against it, but it's an added risk, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Yes, it is an added risk because right now this information is with the Passport Office, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
The chair recognizes
it will soon be
the honourable
with the
member for Freetown. Member,
It's a point of order, Mr.
Clarification.
Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the provision of the information isn't created by this bill at all. The provision of the information happens. This bill builds in safeguards for when you have provided your information to persons. It says the standards that persons are held to. So when you provide your information to the bank, the bill protects your information provided to the bank. When you provide it to an insurance company, it protects the information provided to the insurance company. When you provide it to a doctor, a lawyer, anybody, the information isn't provided pursuant to this act or bill. This bill seeks to protect your information. And there seems to be a fundamental disconnect that the opposition doesn't seem to grasp that. They seem to believe that this bill creates the obligation to pass information when this bill actually protects information that you have given to people. And that's the way that this bill operates.
the chair recognizes the honourable member for St. Anne's.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, based on what the honorable member for Freetown just said, he added insurance companies in, he added banks in, he added insurance companies in. If I can just get through this without having a no-no or an everybody, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the data controller is identified. The data controller is identified, Mr. Chairman, and it means an identifiable natural person, a person, public body, agency, or other body which alone or jointly with others determines the purpose and means of processing personal data. It doesn't identify banks. It doesn't identify insurance companies, Mr. Deputy Speaker. He did identify the risks. What the public has to appreciate, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and which can't be denied, is biometric data right now is in the possession of government authorities through the Passport Office, as well as through the, to a degree, the National Insurance Board. Everybody knows the more people you share information with, the greater the risk of that information being misplaced, being misused, being lost. Through the biometric cards, that when you go to register as a voter, you're now being asked to sign over your biometric data in the possession of the Passport Office to the Parliamentary Registry's Office, Mr. Deputy Speaker. And that is an increased risk. That is now more persons in possession of that information, more systems that are going to be used to house that information, and even a new entity, Mr. Deputy Speaker, a foreign entity, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that is going to have that information. And we know that data is the new gold. The data is the new oil. All right, so let's not just breeze past the rights and freedoms and liberties of Bahamians because we have somewhere else to be on a date we're scheduled to be in Parliament. Mr. Deputy Speaker, when we look at an additional amendment in this, when we look at an additional, I ask for no no-nos. No.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Freetown.
Point of order. Mr. Deputy Speaker, Mr. Chairman, let me say this so I can disabuse St. Anne's view that we don't anticipate that they will be obstructive and so have secondary plans. And so the first plan of me getting to Grand Bahama was provisional because I anticipated just this. But to show Mr. Deputy Speaker, because he can't gloss over talking about data controller, to make it appear that data controller is limited. And for the edification of the Bahamian public, data controller means, that means this is a definitive definition. If it's not included in this, it is not a data controller. And it means an identifiable natural person, those are words meaning a human being. And then, or a person. And that means a person that might not be a human being, like a corporate person, like a person that is an unincorporated association. So you have human beings, you have corporate bodies, you have public bodies, you have agencies, and an insurance company is an agency or other body, so that extends it far and wide, which does one of these things alone or with others, and that's the means of processing personal data. Again, it appears that the opposition does not grasp that this bill does not create any reporting or disclosing obligation for the creation of data. It protects it. Every day, we have, Mr. Chairman, recently the Ministry of Foreign Affairs advised Bahamians that if you are traveling to the US, they may ask to see your phone. And you have a choice to give them your phone or don't travel. So the provision of data, Mr. Chairman, happens without any influence by the government at all in many circumstances, and this bill is to protect it. And so that the public can be clear, everything that is highlighted in this bill that is new, although it is belt and braces, is something that did not exist and that the opposition did not think to do for 4.5 years, while we had biometric data being processed at immigration kiosks by the same persons who do our passports, by the same person who will do the biometric voter's card. And so this attempt to set a bogeyman that St. Anne's is doing, the public should know that they had this same foreign entity collecting the same biometric data, and they didn't think to protect it or impose these constitutional safeguards. They were delinquent for 4.5 years because they didn't care.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for St. Anne.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I'd ask that you have the remarks from the honorable member from Freetown about the last government not caring stricken from the record. He's taken the liberty of attempting to close the debate with a very theatrical and hard-hitting response, Mr. Deputy Speaker, but I asked him a very simple question, and instead of answering the question, which is part of this process in committee stage, he attempts to get into who cares and who doesn't care, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and he's talking about someone from the past, Mr. Deputy Speaker. He's not talking about what is happening in the present. I would ask that you have such unparliamentary language, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I would ask that you have such unparliamentary language stricken from the record.
Members.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, will you have it stricken from the record? His comment
The chair
that
recognizes the honorable member
his
for
comment that
Freetown.
the last administration did not care.
Mr. Chairman, I would admit that you can't know how someone else feels. And so I would withdraw that they didn't care. I would say that if you looked at what they did, you might get the impression that they did not care.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for St. Anne's.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. And I do apologize to members of the public who have to see me continuously looking at my phone. I'm not surfing. This is the only place that these amendments have been produced. There isn't even a hard copy. There isn't even a hard copy exchanged in this honorable House of Assembly, Mr. Deputy Speaker. These are the government amendments, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and arguably the clerk's team doesn't even have a copy of these amendments. Am I wrong? Where's the amendments? Why wasn't the opposition provided with a hard copy? Why wasn't the opposition provided with a hard copy?
We all are those who are trying to fight.
Now, Mr. Deputy Speaker, see, please give the chairman a copy of the amendments. please, is a request. I'm waiting for the chair. He's in charge of the committee. He's having a look at the amendments now for the first time.
So you speaking to him now? No, he's speaking to him.
He can correct. He can correct. Or to put it in the words of the honorable member of Freetown, no. Mr. Chairman, so another definition in section 2 is statistical purposes. Thank you. I'll take receipt of these hard copies now. Another definition in section 2 by way of amendment, not there prior, is statistical purposes. Includes an activity that is reasonably undertaken for the carrying out of statistical surveys or for the production of statistical results, but only where the information that results from the processing shall be aggregated and not identify any data subject, and the data controller shall not use the results or any information derived from the surveying or production activity in support of measures or decisions with respect to a particular data subject who was the subject of the statistical activity. Now, it's almost overly verbosum, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that they're going to be doing statistical surveys. So they're going to take your data. They're going to assess you without saying it's you, but all of your data is now going to be used for statistical purposes, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and we cannot rule out that we have general elections coming up, Mr. Deputy Speaker. What this guards against is what should not be done. So if you have a guard against what should not be done, you are recognizing what could be done, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Now, Mr. Deputy Speaker, can the honorable member for Freetown, can he advise why this new amendment was added to this bill when it previously was not in the earlier bill, which is the assumption, since the entirety of it is highlighted and the highlights are the amendments?
The chair recognizes the member for Freetown.
Mr. Chairman, as I indicated earlier, a lot of this is belts and braces. It's another instance of belts and braces, and the member for St. Anne's, who I did have some influence on his legal education, and I say that because I had some on the member for Centerville as well. A big part of, Mr. Chairman, the public reading statutes and understanding them, having dealt with this at the law school, is when you see the word includes, Mr. Chairman, that means other things are also included. The belts and braces aspect here, from all of those verbose words that St. Anne's read, is some clever person might have suggested that if you take information, aggregate it, do not identify the person whose information it is, you could make use of that without any recourse to the actual person. And so if persons don't realize it, when you sign on to all of these things on your phone and you click agree, one of the things you agree to is for them providing sometimes your data, identifying you, and some are more restrictive that they can aggregate it. And so, Mr. Deputy Speaker, Mr. Chairman, before we install this belts and braces, the company that captured the biometric information for immigration, a foreign company that it was introduced and ran during the 4.5 years that the previous administration was in place, could have captured data, say that these individuals enter the Bahamas once a month, once a week, twice a week. They enter the Bahamas at this port, and they could sell that on to other persons, as St. Anne says is goal. This provision includes that type of statistical information as statistical purposes so that it is beyond doubt that not identifying the person does not free you from the protection of the Data Protection Bill.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for St. Anne's.
Mr. Chair, we've just heard from the honorable member for Freetown speak about a foreign entity and the potential risks and conduct that foreign entity may have carried out. I think that is a smear on the reputation without any evidence that it was done, Mr. Deputy Speaker, of an entity that has no role in today's proceedings. Now, Mr. Deputy Speaker, before I get on to my next issue with these amendments, which is under Section 4.4, I would like to point,
Member,
I would like to point,
Member, the chair recognizes the honourable member for Freetown.
Mr. Chairman, there is no smear intended on anyone. The member for St. Anne spoke at length about these new voters' cards, suggesting that there's something sinister with a foreign company being involved in that. Surprisingly, it's the same foreign company that has the information already from our passport and our immigration kiosk. And the point that I'm making quite clearly is, and he is correct, the more a person has your data, the more persons can misuse it. And the Bahamas government, in choosing to deal with the one faithful company that both administrations have dealt with, is minimizing that risk.
The chair recognizes the honourable member.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Chairman, I believe you're in the same position that the opposition is in now with these hard copies. You can see if you received it by WhatsApp from the honourable member for Freetown, like I did, Mr. Deputy Speaker, you can see that the yellow highlights are easily identifiable. But, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the copy that the opposition was provided with has no yellow highlights, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Chairman, I would go so far as to say that the copy that you have has no yellow highlights either. If you were given the same thing that we were given, and if you were given something different than from what we were given, why were we given something that disadvantages us? Now, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the next section of the act that they're amending by yellow highlights is Section 4.4. Mr. Deputy Speaker, we've just gone through the existence of risks. We've just heard from the honourable member for Freetown confirm what I had said before, that the more people you share information with, the more likely that information can be misused. Now, we look at Section 4.4 of the Act, and it says, it shall be a defense for a data controller. It shall be a defense. So they have recognized, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that the risk not only could exist, but it's real. There is a very good likelihood, I would go so far as to say, that it will happen. Section 4.4, it shall be a defense for the data controller. The data controller is now getting his hands watched. He's getting his hands watched. He's being told. He's being told.
Yes.
We got you.
Yes.
It shall be a defense for a data controller or data processor charged with an offense under this part to prove that the data controller or data processor acted in good faith, took all reasonable steps, and exercised all due diligence to prevent the contravention. So we have, Mr. Deputy Speaker, a public that is being asked on the 11th day before a general election to sign over their passport biometric information for use by the Parliamentary Registry, Mr. Deputy Speaker. And you know what? If it doesn't go as planned, all you have to do is that you acted in good faith, you took all reasonable steps, and you exercised all due diligence. Now, what is the standard for the Parliamentary Registration Department? How many parliamentary registrations departments? Are we comparing Parliamentary Registration Department in New Providence to Parliamentary Registration somewhere else to know whether they are within the standard, Mr. Deputy Speaker? Are we comparing the protocols in place and the steps being taken to protect this information, this data on all Bahamian subjects, against how it is protected at the National Insurance Board or against how it is protected at the Passport Office? What is the standard so that we can say, yes, this guy he acted in good faith? Or is it just that the person can simply say, by golly, you know, I didn't expect that that would happen.
Yes.
And if I could have stopped it, I would have. Is that acting in good faith? That sounds like he has every good intention, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that he took all reasonable steps. What is the comparative protocol and policy for us to determine whether he took all reasonable steps? You know what, Mr. Deputy Speaker, by the time all of this becomes relevant, that data will potentially have been gone, and the public that trusted the government to oversee the processing of this information would have been, as they say, hoodwinked, bamboozled, and the privacy run amok. Can the member, the honorable member for Freetown, Mr. Deputy Speaker, tell us if there are any established policies and protocols, standards, so that we would know when someone should be held accountable and not simply have a defense?
The chair recognizes the honorable member for Freetown.
Mr. Chairman, you know, I know it's been some time since Anand's worked with me, but these are established criminal standards. And for the public's edification, the section begins to create an obligation that they didn't think to create in 4.5 years. And so I welcome all of this, Mr. Chairman, because it points out what they didn't do in 4.5 years. And so I can read what they didn't do in 4.5 years. There is a new 4.1 that says, subject to the exemption provided under Part 7 of this Act, a data controller and a data processor shall take, that's mandatory, appropriate measures to ensure compliance with the data protection principles set out in this part, and shall, again mandatory, upon the request of the Commissioner, demonstrate their compliance with the data protection principles. So that wasn't there. They didn't think to put it there in 4.5 years. Not only do we put it there, Mr. Chairman, but Section 3, so the public can see what you'll be defending yourself against. It says a data controller or data processor who processes personal data contrary to the data protection principles set out in this part commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine not exceeding $50,000 or to a term of imprisonment not exceeding 3 years, or both. So now you have a risk of going to jail. And the only way that you can stop going to jail is to show that you've acted in good faith, not that you say it, but that you demonstrated, bearing in mind the mandatory provisions of 4.1, that you took all reasonable steps, bearing in mind the mandatory provisions of 4.1, or you exercise all due diligence to prevent the contravention. What that is talking about, Mr. Chairman, if one casts your mind back to after 2017, after the PLP lost the general election, some data processor in a bank disclosed wrongly checks that they had processed. They were data controllers and data processors for the purposes of processing the check. So some teller disclosed the check. The bank, as the data controller, has to show that it had steps in place to prevent that. Now I can see why, bearing in mind that that started their government in 2017, why they didn't put in place these protections to protect the public against those disclosures. And again, I would remind Sinans that the data controller who currently has your biometric information for your passport, who has it for the immigration kiosk, is the same data controller who will deal with the biometric card. So if you can't trust them with the biometric voter's card, it's amazing that they trusted them with the passport and the immigration kiosk. This is just simple and straightforward. And we really thought that everyone would be encouraged by the upgraded protection for persons' personal data. But it appears that the opposition has a difficulty with this upgraded protection. A lot of this is belt and braces, and civil society and groups stepped up and said, you know what? You could argue that this is covered, but make it plain. And we've listened to them, and we've made it plain. We believe that a lot of this was covered, but nothing is harmed by making it, as we say in the law, pellucidly clear. And so I invite Sanance to point out the next belt and braces provision that he has a problem with.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Long Island.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the member for Freetown spoke a moment ago about our government starting, and he's suggesting that our government in 2017 started on the back of some kind of leaks. Sorry? You suggested that our government in 2017 started because there was no data leaks. Was that the suggestion?
No. To be clear, after the general election in 2017, there was circulated on social media a check that was processed in a bank. And when you give your checks to a bank, that becomes data that's yours that constitutes the bank a data controller. And any person in the bank who deals with it, a data processor, so the public can know what we're dealing with. And so the public should know that if the law requires your banking information to be private, that the data controller, the bank, has an obligation to make sure it's not disclosed. And they have to put steps in place so the data processors who work for them don't transgress your right, your fundamental right to privacy. And right after the general election, there was circulated on social media a number of checks payable, drawn on a bank, processed in a bank. And I don't say it was done by the Free National Movement. I say that it happened once the Free National Movement came to power. And so it should have been a blatant example of something that needed to be addressed, like other things, but it wasn't addressed for 4.5 years. And so again, I can't ascribe any feeling to anyone, because there's a saying, he who feels it knows it, and that's a saying that says that you can only know what you feel, not anyone else.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for East Grand Bahama.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, on page 7 of the copy that we have that has the highlights, I'll start with the fundamental rights and freedoms. That entire section has been highlighted, so it appears as though it's a new addition. What was the reason why this would have been added? I mean, I would have thought that fundamental rights and freedoms would have been, I mean, are there other fundamental rights and freedoms that are not under the Constitution? So I'm just wondering what was the necessity to include that?
Again, Mr. Chairman, belts and braces. The Constitution tells you in any event that you can't get around the fundamental rights and freedoms. It was from consultation, late consultation, was determined, if that's the case, why don't you just say it? And so it's belts and braces from what I would be aware of, Mr. Chairman.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for East Grand Bahama.
On that same page, Mr. Chair, under identifiable natural person, there's I guess 3 highlights, namely, and then the identifiable. Could you again just sort of explain why those would have been necessary?
That's grammatical, Mr. Chairman.
And then, Mr. Chairman, the section that's right underneath that, legitimate interest, that seems to be a new section. Could you explain why that section would have been needed?
Firstly, Mr. Chairman, the one begins with the final portion that says that legitimate interest cannot override fundamental rights and freedoms. and the legitimate interest means. So it's limited to an interest pursued by a data controller or a third party which requires the processing of personal data. So if you give somebody data that they must process, if they have a contractual duty to process it, then that is what would fall into a legitimate interest. But it cannot override your fundamental rights and freedoms. And of course, fundamental rights and freedoms then are defined above as your constitutional rights.
To page 8, there's a section on disclosure provisions, which again is seems to be a new section. Could you explain why this was necessary and precisely what this amendment does?
This again is a conclusive definition, Mr. Chairman, and it deals with non-disclosure provisions, which are provisions that persons put into contracts to prevent the disclosure of information, and those can survive insofar as they are, they stand insofar as they are inconsistent with the disclosure provisions set out in those sections. So you cannot prevent disclosures that are required by those sections.
Then on page 9, public interest. And again, this is sort of a similar question in terms of the Constitution. Public interest would be almost a generic term that would have been used on many occasions. So is this definition any different from what the ordinary meaning of public interest is, and why would it have been necessary to sort of define public interest?
Public interest here, Mr. Chairman, means, and it's limited to, and the purposes of this public interest is welfare and well-being of the public. And one may look at the Constitution and see public interest for derogation of rights, listing certain specific things, Mr. Chairman. But this again appears to be belts and braces. But to be clear, welfare and well-being of the public is broad enough to include, for instance, public health, public safety.
Also under representative, right underneath public interest, representative means a natural or legal person established in the Bahamas who is designated in writing by a data controller or data processor that is not established in the Bahamas to act on behalf of that data controller or data processor with regard to their obligations under the Act. Again, my understanding of this representative is that if there is a data company that is not in the Bahamas, that the purpose is to have somebody who is in the Bahamas that not just represents the company, but that you can hold them accountable in the Bahamas. Yeah. So is there any obligation on this representative to have any additional means in the Bahamas? If, for example, you have a Facebook company, let's say you have a company like Facebook, and the only thing they do is incorporate a company in the Bahamas, and the company has no assets, it is essentially a shell company. How do you hold that representative accountable if Facebook or some other company outside of the Bahamas should be held accountable? How do you hold them accountable if it is just a shell company? So what additional means can be done to make sure and hold that representative in the Bahamas to account?
Mr. Chairman, as exists now, and the member for East Grand Bahama gives a very poignant example, Facebook has may have at this point no representation in the Bahamas at all, and would claim that they're not subject to our laws at all because of that. The moment that they bring a representative to this country, they submit to this jurisdiction. And then, of course, holding a company based foreign outside of this country accountable who is submitted to the jurisdiction is just a matter of enforcing a Bahamian judgment wherever it is they do in fact exist. So it's a way of terrestrializing something that now exists in cyberspace and may not exist in the Bahamas. This is a requirement, basically requiring you to submit to our jurisdiction.
So you're again submitting then that if there is a shell company that is
You know, Facebook would be submitting to the jurisdiction.
right, that's my question.
Yeah.
That if let's say it's a shell company of Facebook, that the
Facebook
fact
has
that they
submitted.
have just hear the question. The fact that they have a company, just a company, and the company in the Bahamas has no assets, you're saying that that would be sufficient to hold the international or U.S. company to account?
The penultimate line of the definition seems to make that clear, because the obligation isn't the obligation of the local representative. The obligation is the obligation of the actual data controller, data processor, which in the example would be Facebook. It's their obligation, so once they submit to the jurisdiction through this representative, I would say, Mr. Chairman, that would mean submission to our jurisdiction for accountability purposes.
So in essence, you're saying that based on that, on the example, that if they are fined, let's say they're fined, $1 million or thereabouts, and there's no assets in the Bahamas, how do you enforce that fine? How do you enforce that fine? And is that fine enforceable outside of the country?
Mr. Chair, that would be obvious from being a representative, but one shouldn't limit oneself to fines. Right now, if you have civil liability for the purposes of submission to the jurisdiction, because a lot of Bahamians say that they are harmed by what appears on Facebook, by what appears on Instagram, that what appears on X is harming them, and they don't have the ability to reach out and touch these people because they will say they don't exist in our space. We are now providing in this that they have to have a representative here who they can be held accountable to. So all of the members of the public who feel that they are being now damaged by these international data controllers and data processors will now have a remedy for the first time.
I follow that, and I agree that you now have a representative in the Bahamas. But if the representative does not have any assets or any means, then that's my question. So then if you have a fine in the Bahamas, are you then saying that the fine in the Bahamas is now, you are now able to access the U.S. assets, you are now able to access the U.S. assets through the fine in the Bahamas? That's just the question.
I thought I said that yes, you will enforce it through the same reciprocal processes that you enforce criminal penalties or that you enforce civil judgment.
Mr. Chair, then on statistical purposes, can you again explain why statistical purposes was necessary and what the amendment does?
As I indicated, Mr. Chairman, in answer to Sinan's, statistical purposes makes it clear that what is captured isn't just statistical works that identify individuals, but also protects your information from being aggregated without you being identified. And so, for instance, there have been allegations that for some purposes people will aggregate information and they don't tell you who it relates to, but they would tell you there's a group of Bahamian people, who travel to the US and they return after so many days, and so that's a behavior that may assist you in marketing to them. Well, it's your information, which you can give them consent to use, but unless you give them consent to use it, they oughtn't to be able to use it. And that makes it clear that we are also protecting your information, and the people can't get around this protection by saying we're not going to identify you.
Under Section 3, Sub 2, this act does not apply. And is this a purely new section, meaning that in the previous bill, this section was not there? Okay. So this new amendment includes this act does not apply to the processing of personal data by an identifiable natural person in the course of a purely personal or household activity, and thus with no connection to a professional or commercial activity. Does this not limit your, or are you comfortable with it, with the limitation that it is only for, this bill really is only for commercial purposes, and that, well, professional commercial purposes, whereas there may be a number of persons who use social media and where this bill, according to this section, may not apply. And so are you comfortable with excluding excluding anyone who uses personal data for personal reasons? Are you comfortable with that?
Well, this
Or discloses,
is
yeah.
related to information provided to data processors. So if I produce a listing of my children's birthdays, that's data produced for the household or personally. If this were not here, all of the obligations on this act would fall on everything to do with that. And so that is why it's limited, and it's limited to, firstly, an identifiable natural person, a human being, and it has to be in the course of something purely personal or household. The issue is not to put on those circumstances the heavy obligation that this bill imposes on data controllers and data processors.
If the breach, and I understand the obligation of a professional, let's say using a bank as an example, the obligation of a bank. But if the person who is in the bank is using it for a personal reason, or is disclosing data for a personal reason, would they not be able to use this as a defense? If, for example, they are able to disclose or breach it, and they're doing it for their own personal reasons?
Reading it, it says this act does not apply to the processing of personal data. And then if you skip to the bottom, with no connection to a professional or commercial purpose. So if the person is in the bank doing up their birthday list, a surprise party, and they disclose the surprise party, which has no professional commercial connection, then no, the bank isn't imposed with an obligation to prevent them. But the actual processing, the processing must be personal or in a household and not related at all and have no connection to a professional or commercial activity at all.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for Long Island.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy. Mr. Deputy, I want to take the member to page 77. That's the first schedule. And you'd see the section there on composition. All right, I note that the highlighted amendment speaks to the appointment of members of the tribunal for a period of 3 years, but then the highlighted part says for a further period, one further period of 3 years. So are you saying that once they've served for those 2 periods, they could never serve again on the tribunal? Is that's correct? That's correct, right? Yeah. Okay, he's affirming that is correct. Secondly, if you go on to page 79 on confidentiality, you'd see that's section 10, subsection 2. I note that it seems to be saying that persons who serve on this tribunal would be exempt from being subpoenaed by a court, even in civil matters. Now that almost gives a tinge of being a bit above the law, right? Why would such persons be exempt from being subpoenaed to give evidence if a court determines that they should be subpoenaed to give evidence in a civil matter?
The ending part of that clause is the operative part because it says you shall not be required to give evidence in a civil procedure with regard to information obtained in the course of exercising a power or carrying out a duty related to the administration of this act or regulation, which itself involves engaging with persons' personal private information. And so it would prevent me getting around by a side wind your privacy by just suing somebody and saying what happened. This basically insulates the proceedings by this tribunal in the civil proceedings.
Freetown, what if the person who was aggrieved is bringing the action and wishes to call such a person who's on the tribunal, for example, as a witness, or what happens then? Because they don't seem to have the ability, even an aggrieved party, to subpoena such a person. For the purpose of dealing with matters that might concern them being aggrieved pursuant to this piece of legislation. By some leak or some other data breach affecting them.
The tribunal's purpose is set out in Section 8, and it is to determine appeals, and that's its limited purpose. And so it's determined that for persons to be open and forthright in those proceedings, there should be confidentiality, but it's limited to information you receive in exercising those powers. It would not relate, for instance, to your personal action if they were the offensive, the subject of the complaint. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman? Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, I found the smoking gun. I said that this bill, Mr. Chairman, was to enable these biometric cards. The 11th hour before the general election, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the entire debate on this bill, Mr. Deputy Speaker, didn't have the provisions that are now found in this amended document, which the public probably doesn't have the benefit of, because this amended document that we're debating in the committee stage hasn't been tabled in the Honorable House of Assembly. It hasn't been logged online in the laws of the Bahamas. And you will recall this morning, Mr. Deputy Speaker, there was great back and forth because the government wanted to go all the way through in one vote on the highlighted amendments. Section 31, this was not in the previous bill, and I'll sit down if I get a, no. That's it. That's the one. Yeah. Section 31. We all know, because every constituency now has a team from the Parliamentary Registration Department at the polling station between 5 p.m. at night until late in the night, and that'll continue until further notice. When you go to register to vote, you're asked if you want to get the biometric voter's card, and then you're given a document that they want you to sign saying you give permission for your information to be transferred from the passport office to the registrar, Parliamentary Registrar General's Department. This bill was moved by Cat Island Rumkey in San Salvador as being something substantial for the industry, substantial for the financial services industry. Never once was it mentioned by the government that this bill was about the biometric voter's card. And I made allegation this morning, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and as we've gone through the proper process of debating this bill and these amendments in detail at committee stage, I found it. I found the smoking gun. Section 31, Mr. Deputy Speaker, right of the data subject to receive and transfer data. This wasn't in the bill before. This wasn't in the bill when we debated it, when the public would have been aware of it. This wasn't tabled in the House of Assembly. This wasn't logged online. But here it is, in something they wanted to pass without scrutiny. Yes. Section 31, right of data subject to receive and transfer data. A data subject shall have the right to receive the personal data concerning him, which, sorry, is there something that is funny on the government side about this significant bill?
Keep going to nonsense.
So again, I have to read this off of my phone. I'm over 40 years now. My eyes have to tighten to get a clear review. I mean, you got 3 grown men, 2 KCs giggling away, and 1 head of our Tourism Development Board in the 11th hour before the election. They're not taking this serious, Mr. Deputy Speaker. A data subject shall have the right to receive the personal data. It says the personal data. I thought that the word should have been their personal data, okay? So that's where this stall in my first reading of it came from that caused the chuckling among the governing men of this country. Come on, fellas. Come on, honorable fellas. Okay. Yeah, I'll read something that you guys didn't want to read into the record before. I have no problem doing what is right for the people. A data subject shall have the right to receive the personal data concerning him, which a data subject has provided to a data controller in a structured, commonly used, and machine-readable format, and shall have the right to transmit the personal data to another controller without hindrance from the data controller to which the personal data was originally provided. Subsection 2, the right to receive the transfer personal data under subsection 1 applies where the processing is based on the data subject's consent or on a contract to which the data subject is a party. Remember, they've been asking you to sign these contracts when they want you to sign up for a biometric card. How many voters have already signed a contract? Have any? Have you applied for the biometric voter's card? We don't know, but I know that these contracts exist, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and they're putting it in here now by amendment. So this is not a bill about the benefit of a financial services industry. This is not a bill about your checks being disseminated, and that was a improper point, Mr. Honorable Member for Freetown. We all know, at least those in the informed public know what you were referring to. That shouldn't have been brought up in this honorable House. Mr. Deputy, the right to receive and transfer personal data under subsection 1 applies where it's based on the subject's consent or on contract, and the processing is carried out by automated means. And the section goes on. Mr. Deputy Speaker, I asked the honorable member for Freetown, since he is the minister with responsibility for the Parliamentary Registration Department, who were the experts that delayed the passing of the data protection bill when we debated it weeks ago, that you had to consult and that would have given you advice for this section to be included? Was it the insurance industry? Was it the banks that you referred to? Who was it? And is this not a key, in all honesty, is this not a key section to the data protection bill? In my opinion, and the public can see what I can see, this is the real reason for this bill having to move through so quickly. This bill and this provision at the 11th hour ahead of a general election is really what the government has been behind in putting this information forward. They need that information from the passport office, and they can't have it unless you consent, and the ability to consent has only now, without previous public consultation, Mr. Deputy Speaker, from the government side, to my knowledge, been shared with the public. This bill, Mr. Deputy Speaker, is not about an industry. This bill is about the government's plans for biometric cards and data to be transferred at the 11th hour between the passport office and the parliamentary registrar, and this is the proof. So the two questions to the honourable member for Freetown: which experts were consulted between the debate in this honourable House for this provision to be added, and is this not the most significant provision in this bill that we now have only discovered at committee stage?
Chairman, that demonstrates that the opposition has absolutely very little idea about what existed previously. This section does not relate to what happens with the biometric voters card. Under the old Data Protection Act, under the Data Protection Act bill that was tabled, the owner of data always has the right to consent for it to go wherever they wish it to go. That is the basis of every Data Protection Act, that it requires your permission. Is there a point of order?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the chair recognizes the honourable member for St. Anne's.
He is asserting that the opposition is not aware that there are provisions of consent already in existence in the previous bill. Those provisions of consent, Mr. Deputy Speaker, are in this amended bill still. But what is in this amended bill that wasn't in the bill we debated is Section 31. Show me where the provisions under Section 31 are in the previous bill, not relating to consent. And if it was simply consent is the same, there's no change. Admittedly, it's still in both versions, but what is not in both versions is the section that I've identified.
Mr. Chairman, he just demonstrated it again. Anyone who is verified would know that you don't bring anything in machine-readable form to the Parliamentary Registration Department. I take it now that they're afraid of 2026, and so they're trying to sow confusion. But, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Deputy Speaker,
The chair recognizes the honourable member for St. Anne's.
ask that those last comments about members of the opposition being afraid. The public knows,
Oh,
Mr.
he
Deputy
said
Speaker,
yeah.
the F&M is red and never scared. We're not afraid of 2026. Bring it on. We told you to ring the bell before you decided you were going to postponed it.
Thank you, Honourable Member.
You could ring the bell at any time.
The
Ring
chair
the bell.
recognizes
Ain't
the
no fear
Honourable
over
Member
here.
for Freetown.
Ring the bell.
But
The words be stricken from the
He said that. He withdrew.
I've withdrawn them. I don't know how you feel. I know how it appears that you feel, but I don't know how you feel. But, Mr. Chairman, the provisions of consenting for the use of your information has always been there. So when you sign up for these things online, they ask you to consent to the transmission of your information. That doesn't require Section 31. What Section 31 does is, again, helps the member of the public who is given, for instance, a government agency information, and they now need it to take it somewhere else, and they're told that they can't get it in a machine-readable fashion. This tells the member of the public that it is your right to get it, not the Parliamentary Registration Department, not any bank or insurance company, but it is the right of the citizen to get it. And it's the first words, and that is why two KCs and the person in charge of civil aviation laughed, because the first line is a data subject, the citizen, shall have the right to receive. The citizen has the right to receive, not anyone else. But this is the smoking gun that was discovered, that we are being so roundabout and behind the bush that we're giving citizens the right to receive their data. And why would we not give you the right to receive your data? Apparently, they don't want you to have the right to receive your data in machine-readable form. I don't know why, but they seem to have a problem with citizens having their data in machine-readable form. This is all very curious. All of this bill is to protect members of the public, and this is a provision that gives you a right. You are right. So you don't have to be submitting the same thing over and over again. You can get it in a machine-readable form and give it to anyone who asks for it. So this isn't a section that gives the government right to receive anything. It gives the data subject, the citizen, the right to receive it.
The chair recognizes the Honourable Member for St. Anne's.
I read and I referred to Section 31, and I read subsections 1 and 2, and I left it there. I know that this has caused this day to go much longer in the House than members of the government had anticipated, Mr. Deputy Speaker, but I thank you. I thank you for allowing the opposition to continue the long-established rights and the protected freedoms of members of the opposition to question amendments at the committee stage. Now, having heard the honourable member for Freetown, as a layman, as far as it comes to the transmission of data, I would say that my understanding from the honourable member for Freetown is that I don't have anything more than I had before. I can get the information at my request or on a contract from a government department that has it because I'm a data subject. And then I can take that information, which is my personal information, and I can give it elsewhere. Okay? But what Section 3 says is, in exercising the right referred to in subsection 1, a data subject may request the personal data be transmitted directly from one data controller to another, where this is technically feasible. And this is exactly what I was saying. These consent documents that they want you to sign when you go to register for a biometric voter's card would do. It would allow the it would allow the transmission of the information from the passport office to the parliamentary registry. When the honourable member for Freetown stood up a moment ago, he had the public believe that if I had personal information with a government department, I could go and request it and receive it electronically. Now, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that means that I'm not getting it as a paper printout, but I'm maybe possibly getting it as a thumb drive, which does not seem practical at all. You have a citizenry of 330 maybe 400,000 Bahamians registered voters, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and they're going to be giving out thumb drives so every citizen can get it electronically? No. Or in the words of Freetown, no, 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 no. What this has done by Section 3 has allowed for the automatic transmission of information, and this provision was not there before, automatic transmission of information from the Passport Office to the Parliamentary Registration Department at the consent. It's not, as Freetown had us believe a moment ago, about receiving it electronically by the data subject, okay? You can now, because of this provision which wasn't there before, allow it to be directly transferred from one data controller to another.
Mr. Chairman, when I started this, we indicated that a lot of these things are belts and braces. Anyone who has signed up for Facebook, Instagram, X, or any other service and actually read what you consent for them to do, you consent when you sign up for their service for them to do exactly this. And so when we say there's nothing new about this, there is nothing new about it. And it's not limited to any particular application. Persons consent for medical records to be transmitted from here to Florida to whichever doctor you went to. Enough Bahamians have gone for treatment abroad to know that that happens. As I say, I cannot say how they feel, but for someone to be laser focused on only one way that data can be used shows a preoccupation. And so, Mr. Chairman, the most obvious use of this that Bahamians use every day is when you get your medical record. It used to be on a CD. Now it's on a flash drive. When you go into Cleveland Clinic, when you go into Johns Hopkins, and now all this does is recognize something that happens anyway, and in my humble view, Mr. Chairman, is belts and braces, because in this day and age, when you now travel, when I went to Baskin Palmer, I didn't take it on a flash drive. You just sign the consent form and they send it directly, electronically. But Sinance and the opposition seems to be saying that this is something new. And many persons who have been to the doctor away know that it's not. Many students who have had their transcripts submitted electronically to the universities know that it's not. Anyone who's applied for a visa and transmitted a biometric digital picture of themselves to the US Embassy or to Canada or anywhere else knows that it's not. It's only Sinance and the opposition who seem to think that this has one limited use. And most Bahamian lay people who go to university abroad, whose children go to university abroad, who go for medical treatment, know better. There's a preoccupation. And the preoccupation may signal feelings one way or the other.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure why we keep hearing about Facebook and other entities that the public generally deals with on a daily basis. We're dealing with an amendment. We're dealing with amendments to a bill that was previously debated, and in particular an amendment that wasn't there before. And we were told that we weren't going to move this to committee in third reading on the date of the debate because there was additional consultation that had information that needed to be added. And you'll recall one of my questions when I brought up the smoking gun was, who were the experts that's after we debated in the House recommended this Section 31 to be added? Because despite the familiarity of these types of processes that we do with medical offices abroad, despite the familiarity that we have with Facebook and other social media sites, this provision was put in by this administration without prior notice, without prior recognition. And the reason why, Mr. Deputy Speaker, as a member of the opposition, I have my concerns with this is because it's come through without prior disclosure. But after there was a conference from members of the Attorney General's office, organized at least by the Attorney General's office, and members of the Parliamentary Registration Department at Goldwyn, the condo hotel across the street from the office of the Prime Minister. During that meeting, there was an opportunity after we were briefed by the Parliamentary Commissioner to ask questions, and one question was this process of the biometric cards going to impact the data protection laws? And we were told by a member from the Attorney General's office, and as was everybody else told there, that yes, it would require amendments to the Data Protection Act. And Mr. Deputy Speaker, this provision wasn't included in the previous debate. There was no hoorah in the movers or the cabinet members' communication when he tabled the bill that this had anything to do with biometric data cards. But it's clear, Mr. Deputy Speaker, that this does provide for the measures. It properly documents it, and it's important that it's properly documented, Mr. Deputy Speaker, because we don't want any voter to be disenfranchised, and we don't want any legal challenge to arise from an election. So the government dotted their I's and crossed their T's so that there would be no challenge to the biometric voters card process. That's my argument, Mr. Deputy Speaker. The honourable member for Freetown prefers to talk about Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook and everywhere else, but that is my argument. It wasn't in there before, and unless the honourable member for Freetown wishes to respond again, I stand by that, and I have other points that I'd like to raise as well with regard to the bill.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Freetown.
What I would say is this, and I'm going to say something after I say this. The member for St. Anne's gave a chronology. I passed on to him the lessons that Cat Island, Rumkey, and San Salvador taught me when he mentored me as a lawyer, which is that if you set out a chronology, it helps you. So the chronology is, even before the debate began, we sent them this bill highlighted before the debate, because the WhatsApp exchange shows that. So this thing about the debate happening and then some epiphany happening is just repudiated by the actual chronology. Very, very simply that, by what he himself read. Now, Mr. Deputy Speaker, Mr. Chairman, they keep talking about we didn't want any debate. How it works in committee, how we've seen it for the last 4.5 years, is that you would have a movement, there would be a vote. Once the person rises to move the amendment, there would be a vote, and the amendment either passes or does not pass. That is the practice. And all that happens is that they happen individually instead of collectively. The records of this House could be examined for the past 4.5 years. It's never happened otherwise. Mr. Chairman, in this particular committee hearing, I would say we have been charitable to the extent that it was felt that what would be disclosed by this exercise is exactly what has been disclosed. And so, Mr. Deputy Speaker, Mr. Chairman, there is a motion for the amendments to be accepted. In the ordinary singular motions, the motion demands a vote. And Mr. Deputy Speaker, Mr. Chairman, the motion has been on the floor. And in the ordinary course of things, this doesn't happen in committee. As I say, we've selfishly permitted it to happen or acquiesced to it happening, not permit, sorry, Mr. Chairman, on the basis that it would disclose just what it has. But there's a motion on the floor for the acceptance of the amendment, and I would ask that that motion, that the vote be put on that motion.
Is there a seconder?
It's been seconded.
It has been, yeah, one question, St. Anne's, and
I indicated that if Freetown was to respond, there was something else that I wished to say. Otherwise, I would have just run on.
Okay.
Otherwise, I would have just run on. And it's a simple question, but it's one for the benefit benefit of the public, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and it relates to, in this amended bill, Section 22, Section 22(1)(a). It's difficult. I got to jump about through my phone. I don't have multiple phones, Mr. Deputy Speaker. So just when I go to Section 22(1)(a), and it's not controversial. It's just a question of good organizing and good organization, and something that came up earlier. Section 22(1)(a), Mr. Deputy Speaker, scrolling through, Mr. Deputy Speaker, because it was only sent to us highlighted by phone. Scrolling through, Mr. Deputy Speaker. It's an 88-page document. All right, Section 22, Codes of Conduct and Practice, Guidelines and Data Protection Certification Standards. Subsection 1A is an amendment. The Commissioner may issue codes of practice, codes of conduct, and guidelines for data controllers, data processors, and data protection officers, setting out best practices for compliance with this act. Earlier, the issue came up. What are the standards? What are the standards that someone is going to be guided by to determine if they've acted with due diligence and good faith? And no one from the government side simply responded in saying those are going to be established by the control under Section 22, which I dare say indicates to me that some, if not all, of the members of the government side were not well versed and knowledgeable about the bill that they have amended here today. But my question, Mr. Chairman, is because this bill will come into effect by notice from the minister, are these already in existence, or will these be created after we pass the legislation? Because if they're already in existence, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I would like to know if we can have them now, unless, as the good member for Freetown is stating, they're already in the bill.
Yeah. It is, Honorable Member, are you going to answer, or are we going to go with the question? Okay. It has been moved and seconded that the amendments be agreed in its entirety as circulated. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. Noted. The motion is carried.
The House to resume with the Speaker and the Chair.
Is there a seconder? It has been moved and seconded that the Speaker do now take the chair. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The Speaker will now take the chair. Several bills, making amendments there too.
Yeah, they dirty. You already reported? No, he reported secretly. I am. Honorable members, the Deputy Speaker and Chairman of the Committee of the Whole has reported that the committee has examined the bill, having made amendments thereto. Third reading and passing.
Is not. We move back to, revert back to, oh yeah, we move that the bill be read and passed. Sorry, third time and passed, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, honorable members. Is it? This is it, right? Yes. It has been moved and seconded that the following bill be read a third time and passed. A bill for an act to regulate the collection, keeping, processing, use, and dissemination of personal data to protect the privacy of individuals in relation to their personal data, to establish the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner, and to establish the Data Protection Oversight Committee, to repeal the Data Protection Privacy of Personal Information Act, Chapter 324A, and for connected purposes. As many are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. Order that the bill be read for a third time and passed.
For an act to regulate the collection, keeping, processing, use, and dissemination of personal data, to protect the privacy of individuals in relation to their personal data, to establish the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner, and to establish the Data Protection Oversight Committee, to repeal the Data Protection Privacy of Personal Information Act, Chapter 324A, and for connected purposes.
Order that this bill do now pass and the title thereof declared to be Data Protection Act 2025. For the third reading and passing?
There's none, Madam.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Order that the clerk to take the bill passed in this Honorable House today to the Honorable Senate for their concurrence. We will now revert back to the order of business. Introduction and swearing of new members, laying of documents by ministers. The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Caroline Rumkey and San Salvador.
Madam Speaker, I beg leave to lay on the table of the House a copy of the Disaster Risk Management Declaration of Disaster Alert, Central and Southeast Bahamas Order 2025.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Order that the document be brought up. Thank you. Order the document to lie on the table. Clerks? Thank you. For the laying of documents?
To lay on table of the House a copy of the Disaster Risk Management Evacuation Southeast Bahamas Order 2025.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Order the document be brought up. Thank you. Order the document to lie on the table. For the laying?
Madam Speaker, beg leave to lay on the table of the House a copy of the Public Debt Management Bahamas Zero Coupon Bond 2025, Directions 2025.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Order that the document be brought up. Thank you. Order the document to lie on the table. For the laying of documents?
Madam Speaker, beg leave to lay on the table of the House a copy of the Public Debt Management Bahamas Registered Stock Number 2, 2027 and 2028, Directions 2025.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Order that the document be brought up. Thank you. Order the document to lie on the table. For the laying?
Madam Speaker, beg leave to lay on the table of the House a copy of the Public Debt Management Bahamas Registered Stock 2029, 2031, 2032, 2036, 2049, and 2054, Directions 2025.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Order that the document be brought up. Thank you. Order the document to lie on the table. For the laying? The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Tall Pines.
Thank you so much. I beg leave to lay on the table of the House a copy of the Industrial Encouragement Approved Manufacture Antonio Miller Trading as Raw Built, Order 2025, on behalf of the Minister for National Security.
Thank you, honorable member. Order the document be brought up. Thank you. Order the document to lie on the table. Further laying of documents?
I beg leave on behalf of the Minister of National Security to lay the Industries Encouragement Approved Product Antonio Miller Trading as Raw Built, Order 2025.
Thank you, honorable member. Order that the document be brought up. Thank you. Order the document to lie on the table. Further laying of documents?
Thank you.
Thank you, honorable member. Before we move on to statement communication by the ministers, I would like to recognize officially in our gallery today a young lady by the name of Miss Lashante Sampson. Ms. Sampson is to be congratulated. She is the winner of the Prime Minister's Cup for this year's National Youth Awards. And she captured the Youth Award in governance for her outstanding work in country, throughout the region, and globally. She is also the Youth Senator and a Youth Ambassador to the Commonwealth. We are proud of you, and we thank you for your services to God and country. Let's congratulate her. I see you bought the cup. Put the cup up. Let's see the cup. Congratulations, congratulations. And before we move on, I would like to also recognize in our gallery today, Mr. Jeremy T. Sweeting, who gave us a copy, and one is now going to be held in the archives of the House of Assembly, and it's called the House of Assembly from 1729 to the late 19th century. And we would like to say thank you. Thank you. Stand up, Mr. Sweeting. Let's recognize Mr. Sweeting for your presentation. And I'm ordering that this do lie on the table of the House of Assembly to be placed in our archives. So now we revert back. And I'd also like now to move to statement communication by ministers. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Carmichael.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to also express my congratulations. Michael is in the house. Madam Speaker, I rise today to address the public discussion that has followed the release of the 2022 Census of Population and Housing Volume 2, Household and Dwelling Characteristics, published by the Bahamas National Statistical Institute. At the outset, I wish to commend the Institute, its leadership, statisticians, and enumerators for their professionalism and dedication. The Bahamas National Statistical Institute is one of the most respected public institutions in our nation. Its work provides an objective foundation for sound public policy. We must therefore be guided by its findings, not by assumptions or careless interpretation. Madam Speaker, the census is a technical document. It presents facts, not opinions, data, not conjecture. It provides policymakers with a snapshot of national conditions and trends so that our responses may be grounded in knowledge rather than rhetoric. What it does not say, Madam Speaker, is that there are 25,000 homes simply available for Bahamians to move into. Anyone who makes such a claim either has not read the report, Madam Speaker, or has willfully misunderstood its contents. The census recorded a total of 144,198 dwellings across the Bahamas in 2022. Of these dwellings, 119,138 were occupied and 25,060 were vacant. That means, Madam Speaker, that approximately 17% of all dwellings were not occupied on census day. However, The report clearly explains that the reasons for these vacancies are complex and require further study. A dwelling recorded as vacant simply means that no one lives there on the day of census day. It does not mean that the home was available or affordable. For the purpose of the census, a dwelling is classified as habitable once it meets certain basic structural conditions, such as having a roof, walls, and an enclosed suitable space for human living. But, Madam Speaker, what may be considered habitable for statistical purposes is not necessarily what the average Bahamian family would regard as livable. A structure may meet the census definition of a dwelling, yet still lack electricity, running water, plumbing, or proper sanitation. Many of these dwellings are in need of repair or are used only seasonally. Others are short-term rental properties or are owned by non-residents. Madam Speaker, the detailed data published by the Institute revealed that more than 9,000 of these vacant dwellings were listed for rent, about 900 were listed for sale, more than 2,000 were short-term Airbnb rentals, more than 3,000 were seasonal or winter homes, more than 2,000 were secondary residences, and more than 7,000, Madam Speaker, were derelict or unclassified. It is therefore clear that very few of these dwellings are available to meet the housing needs of Bahamian families. Madam Speaker, it is also critical to understand the relationship between dwellings and population. Between 2010 and 2022, the national population grew by approximately 14%, while the number of occupied dwellings grew by about 16%. On the surface, this appears balanced, but the reality is more nuanced. A significant share of new dwellings are now investment properties, second homes, or short-term rentals that do not accommodate Bahamian households. A second home that is occupied by a non-resident on census night is classified as occupied, yet that individual is not included in our population figures. This statistical distinction creates a gap between the apparent stock of dwellings and the functional supply of housing for Bahamian residents. It explains why, despite the increase in dwellings, Bahamians continue to face crowding and rising rents. If there were truly an excess of homes, rents, and property prices would be falling then. Instead, prices continue to rise. According to the International Monetary Fund, in its 2025 Selected Issues paper on housing affordability in the Bahamas, between 2012 and 2022, property prices and rents rose by 14%, while average wages only increased by 2%. The cost of housing, therefore, grew 7 times faster than wages. That is the definition of a housing affordability crisis. This is not a recent phenomenon, Madam Speaker. The housing shortage has built up over decades. The Housing Needs Study conducted in 2000 by the Department of Housing projected that the Bahamas would need 28,530 new homes to meet new household formation, reduce overcrowding, and replace old dwellings. Yet, between 2000 and 2010, only about 15,016 homes were added. Madam Speaker, this government is confronting that reality head-on. We are not debating whether the problem exists. We are solving it. Across the Bahamas, new subdivisions are under construction. Mortgage access is expanding, and thousands of Bahamians are moving closer to the dream of home ownership. We are modernizing the Bahamas Mortgage Corporation to expand access to credit for first-time buyers. We have revived the self-build program, directly contracting with small Bahamian contractors, achieving cost savings and building local capacity. We are partnering with private developers through public-private partnerships to bring new homes to market. And through the rent-to-own initiative, we are giving hard-working Bahamians, single mothers I might add, a real path to ownership. Madam Speaker, the data also demonstrates how far we have come in improving living conditions. In 1980, more than 13,647 homes in the Bahamas relied on pit latrines. By 2022, that number had fallen to just over 1,116. This marks one of the most significant public achievements in our nation's history. But we are not done. The government is continuing this decades-long work to finally eliminate pit latrines completely, ensuring that every Bahamian family has access to safe, modern sanitation. Madam Speaker, some have argued that there is no housing shortage because banks hold distressed or vacant assets. Yet, many of these same institutions have become increasingly reluctant to lend for homes, even to qualified Bahamians. The report indicates that the share of owner-occupied homes under mortgage has fallen, Madam Speaker, from 22.8% in 2010 to just 16.2% in 2022. This is not merely a result of repayment, it reflects a contraction in lending. Many of the same institutions, Madam Speaker, that claim the market is oversupplied continue to hold repossessed or distressed properties for years, refusing to sell them at market value because doing so would require them to recognize losses. These homes remain locked up, idle, and unproductive, contributing nothing to the economy or to national housing supply. Madam Speaker, by contrast, this government is determined to solve our housing challenges through Bahamian innovation and participation. We are building partnerships that bring together public resources, private investment, and community expertise to deliver sustainable results. Our approach is rooted in confidence that Bahamians have the skill, the knowledge, and capacity to build for themselves. The government's housing programs are creating real opportunities to Bahamian contractors, professionals, and workers. Through public-private partnerships, modern construction methods, and sound financial planning, we are demonstrating that the answers to our challenges are found right here at home. Madam Speaker, it is easy to make headlines from a boardroom. It is harder to build homes, create communities, and provide dignity for families. This government will continue to do the hard work because the real test of leadership is not who can speak the loudest, but one who can deliver results that ordinary Bahamians can live in, can afford, and simply call their own. May God continue to bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, these fine islands that we call home. Thank you, Madam Speaker. 2022 Census Report of Population and Housing on the table, as well as the communication.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Order the documents be brought up. Order the documents do lie on the table. Further statement and communication?
No further communication, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Communications by the clerk? Thank you. Messages from the Governor General. Messages from the Senate. We have messages number 32 and 33 from the Honorable Senate, and it reads, Message to the Speaker and members of the Honorable House of Assembly from the President and Honorable members of the Senate. The Honorable Senate acquaints the Honorable House of Assembly that they have passed the following bill, accompanying message number 48, dated 29th October 2025 from the Honorable House of Assembly, namely, a bill for an act to amend the Automatic Exchange of Financial Account Information Act. It is signed by the Honorable President of the Senate, and it's dated 3rd November 2025. Message number 33 reads, Message to the Speaker and members of the Honorable House of Assembly from the President and honorable members of the Senate. The Honorable Senate acquaints the Honorable House of Assembly that they have agreed to the following resolution accompanying message numbers 47, dated 22nd October 2025, from the Honorable House of Assembly, namely, now therefore be it resolved that A, authorizes the Treasurer to dispose of $17 million from the dormant account proceeds held by the Treasurer and forming a part of the consolidated fund. B, approves the transfer of $17 million by the Treasurer from the dormant accounts proceeds held by the Treasurer and forming a part of the consolidated fund to the Disaster Emergency Fund. It is signed by the Honorable President and it's dated 3rd of November, 2025. Order that the documents do now lie on the table. Motion for leave of absence, leave to resign seat, and new writs. Presentation of petitions, presentations of reports of committees, adoption of reports of committees. First reading of bills.
Madam Speaker, no first reading of bills.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Second reading, committal of bills. Thank you, Honorable Member. Committee of the Whole House. Third reading and passing of bills.
There's no third reading passing bills, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Consideration of Senate's amendments, resolutions,
No, there's a member statements. Yeah.
member statements. The Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Long Island.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I just came back to Nassau yesterday, having done an assessment, and I'm going to take full advantage of my few minutes here, Madam Speaker, having done an assessment in Long Island following the storm. And I noted that we suffered serious damages in some instances, but I'm grateful that it wasn't catastrophic when contrasted to Hurricane Joaquin. We had some flooding. We had folks who had a lot of roof damage, a lot of lost shingles, plywood, sheetrock, and folks who lost a lot of crops. Madam Speaker, given our needs, we urgently need government intervention, items like shingles and felt and nails, plywood, sheetrock, construction supplies. But we also need, given the flooding that you see in certain areas, we need at least about 70 drainage wells. You have persons like, I watched Joanne Knowles, for example, wading through the water to get into her home, which was also flooded. Areas like the Bight, where you have Bonnie Marie, flooded. Down there in the Deals area, the Deals area where you have Rosemary and Christopher Adderley in the Sims area. The road is being paved, but there don't seem to be any drainage wells in that contract. And so these folks haven't been able to get out of their yard, or hadn't been able to get out for days due to flooding there. So they need to put some kind of drainage system there, culvert or roads, etc. Madam Speaker, you have Bridgewater Road, Stacy and Junior Pinder, persons who had water in their house, etc. So we have some challenges. Madam Speaker, I've been, over the last few days, distributing water. And, I got in about 60 cases of water on the island. I was distributing, we sent in some more supplies today. And so to Long Island, we have some, from your constituency fund, we have some disinfectant on the boat, some hand sanitizer, insect repellent, because the mosquitoes will lift you and carry you. And with the water drying, it's going to get worse. So in time to come, we'll have more significant orders and shipments. However, Madam Speaker, I must say that thus far, the new day has not reached Long Island. It is a new day somewhere, but it's not in Long Island. And right now, the government response to this storm has been way too slow. And to say way too slow might be too kind, because there's been no response. Madam Speaker, 2 Defense Force vessels came to Long Island in Clarencetown. One is docked at the dock in Clarencetown, and one is off in the sea. And those vessels came with 42 cases of water. That's a disgrace, Madam Speaker. 42 cases of water, a fogger for environmental health, and some fogging solution. I had more than 60 cases of water sitting there waiting to address a hurricane response. So, Madam Speaker, as far as we are concerned, the money spent to bring those 2 Defense Force vessels to Long Island, the fuel and the feeding of the officers and the expenses could have hired at least 20 Long Islanders to assist persons with repairs and so on. As it stands, and the facts are these, you had a number of officers come to Long Island, but there are no water pumps, no generators. What is the point of water? What's the point of, this is a member statement.
Just want to extend the time. Listen, we're going beyond the one. We're going beyond 1 hour, and we ask the House continue after 1. Thank you.
Okay. Hold on, give me a moment to extend the time. Is there a second? Yeah, me scared. It's been moved and seconded that the business of this House proceed beyond the 1 p.m. hour. As many are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The business of this House will now proceed beyond the 1 p.m. hour. Give me one.
Five minutes.
The floor recognizes the member for Long Island.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the 2 Defense Force vessels that came to Long Island, they brought 42 cases of water, right, in the wake of a hurricane. They brought no water pumps, no generators, no hammers, no hand machines, no chainsaws, no tarps, not even a bag of nail, no supplies whatsoever. They didn't come with a cutlass to clear the bush, and they helped to move the fallen trees out of people's yard. No bleach, no disinfectants, no insect repellents, no garbage bags, nothing. No plywood, no sheetrock, no shingles, no felt, nothing. So the Royal Bahamas Defense Force came to Long Island with their 2 hands swinging, and it's clear that they didn't even come prepared to pump the water out of the people's yards. They had no pumps. So we want to know what happened to the $17 million that the Parliament just approved for the DRMA for natural disasters. Mr. Chairman, you have people looking up at the sky through their ceilings, through the roof. You have persons who could see the beams in their ceiling. Mr. Deputy, you have people wading through water to get inside their homes. You have people who cannot drive their cars or could not drive their cars from one end of the island to the next due to the water in the road being so high. So what did the Defense Force come to Long Island for? Must either show up to take pictures. So we need to stop flamming around here. We don't have time for pump faking and flamming. If you didn't bring a cutlass to the island to help clean up, it's a crying shame. You got an island of 3,000 people and you bring 42 cases of water. I had 60+ cases of water there. I've sent in cases of water today. You come and you didn't bring any tarps. I was in Kelly's last night, Mr. Chairman, buying tarps because I got a call that they were going to people's home, but there were no tarps. They had no tarps. So I spent almost $1,000 from the constituency fund last night getting tarps to send to Long Island. So we need help. We don't need any more long talks, Mr. Chairman, and no more false promises. We need the government to send relief and supplies to the people of Long Island. We've had enough of the disrespect and the neglect. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, member. Further member statements? The chair recognizes the honorable member for Kalani.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I have 2 pressing matters in my constituency. There's a pothole on the West Bay Street Road that was created by Alive. I saw them West Bay Street, just east of Travelers Rest. I saw when they were digging the road, and the hole extend halfway across the street to the next lane. Unfortunately, it's on a curve. Unfortunately, on a curve. And therefore, vehicles traveling from the east heading west, it's a blind spot, and they are forced to go into the outer lane facing oncoming traffic. I'm asking the government to repair it as quickly as possible before we have head-on collision. And this is just east of Travelers Rest. We have another pressing matter, Madam Speaker, Mr. Chairman. This is a chronic matter, and this has been ongoing with previous governments. With the development of the Bahama development and the police station, the banks, etc., the road has been elevated. The Ruby Avenue and Nico Apartments, which is just west of that, or behind the police station and the police, is at least 3 foot below the level of the police station, the banks, and the Bahama Boulevard. Unfortunately, drains run from the Bahama Boulevard or the police station, the parking lot, etc., and runs directly into those subdivisions. Mr. Chairman, I brought a picture so you could understand. This is the police station, the banks, etc. This is the Ruby Avenue continuation. You can see multiple conduits or drains coming from that area into this development. There are at least 40 such drains, 40 such conduits. During rainy season, water comes keeping the police station, bank, parking lots, etc. dry, but the development is completely always flooded. Today, even though the rain has stopped, this area is still extremely flooded. The residents' homes obviously have been devalued as a result of the flooding, and there are great difficulty getting into their homes. I'm asking government, as this problem was created by us, I'm not saying you, I said us, all governments, as this problem has been created by us, can we offer some form of assistance and at least suck this water out so that individuals can get into their homes? Because this is the Ruby Avenue. You come around Ruby Avenue going into the Nico condominiums. The entire area is still flooded, even though it has been dry. But then, oh, yes. I would most certainly do that, yes. But that is what we request at this point in time. Then, Mr. Chairman, I'm only asking that the potholes in the Bohemia West subdivision, that it's basically a road of patches. And I'm asking, I've sent a pin in for both pothole repairs for Bay Street as well as Bohemia West. Those pins have been sent already, so I'm awaiting Ministry of Works to assist us with that. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Further member statement. The chair recognizes East Grand Bahama.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I think there are basically three issues that, well, 4 issues that are concerning for residents in the East Grand Bahama constituency. The first is the state of some of the roads, and this is, again, is not the responsibility of the government, but we have to bring attention to the East Sunrise Highway, and then you have communities like Manton Drive, Canopy Lane, Brink Hill, but more particularly East Sunrise Highway. You know, Grand Bahama has always been known for, you know, the state of its roads and the good state of its roads. Recently, however, it has deteriorated recently, and so East Sunrise Highway, if you're going towards passing Chesapeake, going towards the Casuarina Bridge, now have huge potholes that residents now have to navigate around. And the responsibility for this rests with Lusco Service Company. And we are asking for Lusco to do what they are mandated to do, which is to ensure that the roads are kept in good repair. And that would be on East Sunrise Highway. And there are many roads, but these ones that in particular, East Sunrise Highway, Brink Hill, Canopy Lane, Manton Drive, we want the Lusco to pay closer attention and to ensure that they remedy the potholes that are on that road. Also, Mr. Chair, and I'm glad the member for Tall Pines is here, the Rand Memorial Hospital, a constituent of mine called me, actually it was just yesterday, and in an act of desperation, their family member, I'm advised, was in the emergency room for days. And what they were informed of was that there have been no additional beds. And so they have been in the emergency room for, I think she said they were there from Thursday of last week. And again, there's no indication as to when they are going to be able to get a room. And it is what she advised me was that it was really a desperate situation where there are far too many folks who are in the emergency room over an extended period of time, and bathroom facilities are an issue, visitation is an issue, all those issues that you could imagine having to stay in the emergency room for days. And so we are wanting to bring this matter to Tall Pines' attention. I have another issue, but I'll wait to hear from you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for East Grand Bahama. East Grand Bahama, the Ministry of Health, both hospitals, the Rand Memorial Hospital and the Princess Margaret Hospital, has outgrown itself from 1999. The challenges are real. And as minister, I'm not going to stand up and try to create an indication that the hospital has the capacity to really handle the influx. And it's cyclical. Sometimes it's okay, and then sometimes our accident emergency is oversubscribed. But we have come to the realization that we must do the best we can. And cases that require monitoring and in-hospital care, we have created areas in our accident emergency and elsewhere which are classified as virtual wards because it is our responsibility to make the best out of a situation that currently exists. To the family and many other families in Grand Bahama, and likewise in New Providence, we are fully aware of the circumstances. We've had this problem in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, and now we have another pandemic, which is non-communicable diseases, and they're chronic. And so we are finding a lot of patients are rotating in and out of the hospital very rapidly because of many issues associated after the discharge. We apologize to the population, and this is the reason why this administration made a commitment for the construction of 2 state-of-the-art hospitals to address these shortages. We are not there quite yet, but the commitment is done, and we are moving to try to resolve the situation. And so I do apologize, but the reality is real. The facilities are oversubscribed. We have one hospital in Grand Bahama, the Rand Memorial Hospital, that is operating at probably twice its capacity. And these are real situations that we confront in healthcare, but this administration is moving, trying to resolve them.
Pines, And again, I mean, the issue, and I understand the challenges that you are facing, you know, but as far as the family is concerned, they are faced with and I'll give you the names, but they are facing a unacceptable situation. So I will pass on those names to you. And then finally, Mr. Chairman, the residents in Gambia Point, and there is a particular resident in particular who is someone who I admire, someone who has been great assistance to me. And he has raised this issue time and time again with respect to BTC and also in some respects Alive, but more particularly BTC. BTC obviously has done a fiber project from McLeanstown, moving it, going past Freetown. And they have passed, or they have not made it to Gambia Point. And that is a frustrating issue for the residents of Gambia Point. And so we have to raise this issue on behalf of those residents of Gambia Point, that they must have the fiber that comes directly into Gambia Point so that they can be connected to it. Their service is horrible as a result of it, not being connected, and it is frustrating for them where there are communities that have good service, but their service is not good. And so we have to raise this issue for those, more particularly for BTC, but we have to most definitely raise this issue for them. It is something that needs to be fixed, and it's something that needs to be fixed now. And so I just wanted to speak to those three issues on behalf of the residents of East Grand Bahama. And then, as I said I was going to, on every occasion that I have an opportunity to, we also must ask the questions with respect to the Grand Lucayan. It is an issue that is in East Grand Bahama, and so we need to understand what's happening with the Grand Lucayan. Has the funds been received? Is the hotel open? Is the hotel not open? What is happening with the hotel deal? The residents of Grand Bahama would like to understand what is happening with this deal. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Honourable Member for East Grand Bahama. The chair recognizes Tall Pines.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Deputy. During the beginning of this session, I was unable, because we ran straight into committee stage, to congratulate Nurse Ramming, the president of the Diabetic Association of the Bahamas, for the excellent work she is doing with her entire team. And likewise, the Kids with Diabetes Support Group, who's been doing an excellent job for education in that particular youth group. We support them 100%. We intend to work closely with them throughout the year. And I also would like to join in to congratulate Ms. Sampson on the National Youth Award. And likewise, I'm looking forward to getting a book from Mr. Neely as it looks at the House of Assembly. Sorry, this is Mr. Sweeting, House of Assembly from, what year it is? Jeremy, yeah, from, I think it's from 1729 to the late 1900. I think it's an excellent opportunity for many of us who have been in this facility to be able to learn a lot more about the history of the House of Assembly. Lastly, I would just like to inform the residents of Tall Pine, particularly those in the Jubilee Gardens, that the ongoing restoration of our park facility is now moving in full gear. And very soon now you will see that the basketball court will be marked now that the asphalt is cured, and we will be able now to improve the kiddie areas, the basketball section, the resurfacing of the pool, and begin to provide essential swimming classes for the residents of Tall Pines, and likewise throughout the country. I'd like to thank the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture, who is partnering with us in Tall Pines, who will be at this particular park giving the necessary training once the park is completed, and to notify the residents of Victoria Garden that shortly after the restoration of the Jubilee Park is completed, we will be in there or in that polling division to address the concerns of that park. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honourable Member Tall Pines. Further member statement? The chair recognizes the Honourable Member of Nassau Village.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to inform residents, specifically on Mangrove Street and in the community of Linden, Pinland Estates North, that we have began milling the road and resurfacing and repaving it. Mr. Chair, this particular portion of my constituency is very prone to water retention and flooding, and it is a situation that has left the roads completely riddled with potholes, and instead of simply patching it, we have moved towards completely resurfacing it for those constituents because their MP cares, their government works for them, and we continue to push for their betterment. So let's stay together in 2026.
Thank you, Honourable Member of Nassau Village. Further member statement? Appointment to select committees. Instructions to select committees. Discharge of select committees. Notice for further meetings. The chair recognizes the Honourable Member of Cat
Yes,
Island from Key and San Salvador.
Mr. Chair, I wish to give notice that at the next sitting of the House or soon thereafter, I would move for a resolution to be passed by this House in respect to borrowing funds for the construction from the People's Republic of China for the construction of the hospital to try to add capacity to the challenges we're now facing. I'll just read the opening paragraph. Whereas the growing population in the island of Providence and the wider Bahamas requires an additional hospital facility to meet the health needs of Bahamian citizens and residents. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this House authorize the Minister to borrow from Exim Bank an aggregate principal amount not exceeding renminbi 1,423,500,000 yuan, which equates to $230 million or thereabouts, and at an interest rate not to exceed, and not exceeding 73% of the commercial contract, or such as the currency as the Minister may determine for the hospital project, approves the Minister to enter a loan agreement or such other debt instrument to facilitate the borrowing described in one above, approves the proceeds of the said loan being used for the purpose of the hospital project.
I order that the notice be brought up. Sorry, the chair. The chair ordered that the notice still lie on the table. Further notices?
Yes, we'd like
Chair
to.
recognizes
Yes,
Honourable Member.
thank you so much. We'd like to renew all notices on behalf of the government.
The chair recognizes the Honourable Member for St. Anne's.
We renew all notices in the name of the opposition.
Thank you.
Adjournment.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We move for the adjournment for the next sitting of the House on December the 3rd. Yeah. December the 3rd, yeah.
Do I get a second? Second. It has been moved and seconded for an adjournment to December 3rd, 2025. As many are in favor, remain seated. 10 a.m. As many are in favor, would remain seated. Those opposed will stand. Final adjournment.
Yes, Mr. Deputy, we move the final adjournment to December the 3rd in the year 2025 at 10 a.m.
Is there a second? It has been moved and seconded for the final adjournment for the sitting of this House to December 3rd at 10 a.m. 2025. Final, that's it.
All